All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of our DevTalks podcast. My name is Luna, if you do not know, and this is your first time being here. I am the host. I am a game designer and an artist. Uh, on this show, we talk about various game relating topics from good and bad game design to custom ideas, specific games, reviews, and how to remake certain ideas in games. Uh, Today, we are going to be talking about health systems. And health systems is not as simple as just a health bar. It is actually a lot more complex than that. A lot of people, when they think of a health system, they just think of the numbers that lower on your screen with a bar that shows how much health you have. But the thing is, if you were just to put just that bar on the screen and don't even put numbers on it, yes, you could determine maybe what your health is, but there would be nothing to actually symbolize that that's health. Like, say, is it black and white? How would you actually know that that's your health, or what would signify that that's your health? Well, I mean, technically taking damage, but then that leads into how do you know that you're taking damage? There are other things a part of the health system other than just that health bar, is the simplest way to put it. More complex is there are numbers happening in the background that we're not going to go too much into because I don't know the specifics of how those systems work, and each system works differently in each game. But we're going to be talking about essentially the UI of health systems. Um, Now, most video games, you typically have your health bar. Actually, I'm going to pull up a drawing, and we are going to just kind of sketch this out. So let's say this is your health bar, and this on a base level is what it's going to look like. Now it's just on your screen. It'd probably be in a lower corner. Uh, Probably something like, oh, I messed up. Probably something like down here, which that placement actually sort of matters. Each game does place it differently depending on what is needed. Um, but yeah, let's just say this is your health bar, this black and white box down in this corner. How do you know that this is your health bar? Well, I mean, based on other game knowledge, you probably know that that's your health bar because partly because of the placement, partly because there's nothing else on your screen to indicate health right now. But the thing is this could easily be a power bar. This could signify how much of power you have or how much ammo you have. So how do we make this more of a health bar? Well, we typically would add color. We would typically make this red or green, something that signifies life. Life signifies green. Green signifies life, and typically red signifies health. So those are the two most common colors. That is just only one way of being able to tell that that is a health bar. You can, but you can leave it black and white. That is an option. Because typically there is also other factors like a number. So 1,000 or 100 out of 100 is what you would have for a full health or something. And typically along with that, it would say HP. Or instead of HP, there would be some sort of symbol. Like there could easily be just a heart down here at the bottom, just to signify this is a health bar. That is a terrible looking heart, but we're not here to draw right now. I am drawing with a mouse, so. So that's another way to tell, but we don't even need that because arguably you will also just see this lower in raise, and that will signify that you don't even need roughly how much. So I would wish my mouse would stop clicking the way it is right now. So like ultimately lose health, this would shrink. But without those numbers, without those colors, without those things, how would you know that this is not a power bar? As I mentioned before, you would need something like enemies that would show shooting and show that they're hitting you and showing that they're injuring you. Well, one of the easiest ways to tell that something has hit you is to signify somewhere on your screen that you have taken damage. Usually, this is some sort of like either red stripes around the edge of your screen, or it could just be like some sort of like flash of red, like this, where every time you hit, this red flash would pop up. And meanwhile, simultaneously, you would have your health bar lowering, you would have other things happening to signify you have taken damage. Now, a lot of this stuff is very subtle in video games. A lot of it, most people do not recognize. One of the examples I used when I was doing research on this was GTFO. It was a game that I was playing a lot at the time of researching. So let's just look up a GTFO. Let's just find gameplay. So actually, this is, I think, yeah, this is an old screen like thing of gameplay. But it'll work. So at the top right here, this is your health bar. It says 100%. Now, how do you know that's your health bar? Well, if we watch through this, I don't know, 2 times speed it. Let's get it a little further in, maybe to where they're actually fighting things. Let's see. So they took damage. Their screen flashes red. I need to turn it down so we can actually see that. Taking notes. Yes. There will not be a quiz on this, don't worry. So if we watch this closely enough, their entire screen just flashed red as they took damage. I can even slow it down further. So it doesn't help that there's also the flashes of the gunfire, but you watch very carefully. You can also see the enemies are taking damage when they fall back. They stumble, essentially. So on the side right here, you can see there is a flash of red. There is also a warning symbol that pops up by their health bar. No, there will not be a quiz. Don't worry, Game Shag. There are signifiers on here that tell them that they took damage. That is a part of the health system here. The other part of the health system is what is happening to enemies, the stumbling back, the different effects. One thing that does happen in GTFO is the more damage you take, kind of the slower you walk. Now, it doesn't always necessarily affect, because there's other things that will affect how you walk. If you get infected, which is another factor of the health system, even though you don't always take damage from being infected, you will start coughing in the game, and there are auditorial effects. There is also an auditorial effect of taking damage. Your character makes a hit sound, which is just adding on to the sense of you took damage. Without these factors, one, you wouldn't know that you actually took damage, and two, these factors, I guess I shouldn't say two, these factors are added into the game to signify to the player that they have taken damage. Without them, How would you know? Because you cannot physically feel what this character is feeling. You are just playing. You are not this character. So how does the game immerse you into feeling like you are this character, you took damage without being able to make you physically feel the damage? Well, it's got to add things like the red and the warning and the health bars. Because real life, we do not have that stuff. We just feel pain. So how do we signify pain? Red. Red flashes on the screen. Um, I don't know if in this video they necessarily get low enough. Also, you can see right there. So they take damage from behind and they get jerked. That's another factor. They get hit and they do the same thing that happens when you hit an enemy. Your body jerks to the side. Now, another thing with this health bar, and again, like I said, I don't know if it will show it, oh, it does. It does here at the end. The health bar turns red, signifying danger, signifying you are low on health. So even if you did not recognize that number in the center that says 34%, you know you're low because it is red. That is informing you how low you are and how close you are to death and that you need to do something about it. I'm pretty sure it even starts flashing the lower you get. Um, but I am not, it's been a minute since I played GTFO, so do not quote me on that factor. That is a thing that a lot of video games do, though, is they will flash the health bar signifying that, hey, you are low. Do something. You're in danger. You took damage. Run. Um, little small things like that. Now, what you typically do with a health system is you provide the character and the player with some form of healing their character. Usually this is done through health packs or medic stations or uh, there's just usually some form of heal and it varies per the game. Because like if we look at League, we were just playing League. If we look at how you heal in League, you have to back. You have to back or you die and respawn with your full health. There are some summoner spells that heal you. There are some items that heal you. There are potions that heal you. All different forms of healing, all a part of the health system. In GTFO, there are health packs that you can pick up and carry around, just the same as ammo and toolkits and disinfectant packs. You do not have to typically use these upon pickup in GTFO, but most of the time when you pick them up, you're using them for some sort of reason or planning to use it relatively soon. Um, and the way health packs are normally displayed now, there are multiple ways to display health packs. I'm not going to show it through GTFO because we're not going to be just using GTFO as an example for showing health packs. Your health packs can look multiple ways. They can resemble a first aid kit. We're gonna just draw a very bad first aid kit right now. Because why not? So normally, mouse, please. Please work with me. There we go. And there's some sort of like plus sign, the cross, whatever you want to call it. Simplifying, hey, this is health. This will heal you if you pick it up. Another way is this is Overwatch's sort of. It's not gonna be perfect, but it is a floating plus sign with some like rings around it. Signify it's a little brighter than that, but essentially going, hey, this will heal you. It's kind of like a greenish blue. I think it's a little more towards the green side. Um, but essentially going, this will heal you. This will give you health. Um, there are other ways to show the health pack other than that. Sometimes also health packs just come as a white plus sign. Uh, and then another way to show these kinds of things is symbols that the human brain will recognize as healing. So that can be a few different things. So, what do you normally take when you are sick? You normally will take a pill bottle. So, a pill bottle is another way to represent healing in a game. Typically, this also has a plus sign on it, or it will literally show the pill. Um, Another thing is a syringe. A lot of times there is some sort of syringe in games. In GTFO, there's plenty, each of them giving different effects. Um, Bandages is another common uh, factor for displaying healing. Because what do you do when you get injured? What are you expected to do if you were, say, out in the wilderness and you got a scrape? Well, typically you would want to look for something that would bandage yourself. Obviously, exact bandages would be the best, but sometimes it's as simple as a cloth, and you can turn that cloth uh, into the bandages. It's just using real life symbols to represent different things. Um, Another common way that people heal are potions. Let's see if I can. This is more like the League potion right here, which is not exactly the one I was thinking of. Um, I was more thinking of like a potion bottle, and the League one is red. So if we color it in red, it is red because health. The other potion that League has is green, which, as we said before, represents life. Um, the other potion, the original potion I was thinking of, was the Resident Evil 7 potion. Uh, and I am going to look up an image of it real quick. Which, if we grab this and take a look at it, it is a green bottle. And actually, if we find a better resolution image of this, hold on, let's close that. Find a better resolution. There is a little plus sign on it. This looks like a stereotypical medicine bottle, like that you would have liquid in. Like actually, not a stereotypical one. It looks actually like one from, like this 70s is not quite where I'm thinking of. Well, I guess 70s if you're thinking the 1800s. Uh, this honestly to me looks very similar to the bottles that you find in abandoned asylums. So back when asylums were a thing, this is their stereotypical medicine bottle. Upon which this just splashes a liquid onto yourself and heals you somehow magically. Uh, Little interesting how that works, but it's fine. Everyone knows that the healing in Resident Evil is a little wonky in the sense of like, how are you actually healing yourself? I have not played enough of the other Resident Evil games to know if it's the same in the others, but at least in 7, I can say if we want to talk about a game that kind of wonked their healing system, Resident Evil 7 is definitely one. Um, Now, they do show you're injured by, I can't remember if they gray your screen or if they turn it red. It's one or the other. But when you take damage, it shows on your screen instead of having a health bar. It is one of those games that you do not have a health bar, which is the other case scenario is how do you show a health bar without a health bar? Well, you show all the other visual effects. Um, but anyways, back to Resident Evil kind of wonking up their system. To people, it doesn't feel like you're actually healing. It would have felt more like you were actually healing if you chugged the bottle of liquid instead of splashing it on yourself. Now, yes, there are the signifiers like your green might not your green your screen might not be gray anymore. Um, but how do you know you actually healed yourself? How do you know you still don't have that wound because you just splashed it on your hand? That's why most games will have you drink the potion instead, or the health instead, or the healing. Um, there are some games where literally it just shows you wrapping a bandage around your arm, and that gives the same effect. It doesn't feel like you actually are healing your wound. It feels like you're just trying to describe it. I'm sorry. uh, I'm sorry. My mind is blanking all of a sudden. This is what happens. Um, and I lost my train of thought on that topic. So we'll go with the next thing I was thinking about. A fairly accurate way a game has shown healing. Now, I gotta find a good reference, but Dead by Daylight is what we're gonna be looking for. Gameplay. So, if we look at a survivor's uh, gameplay, which I will pull up in just a minute. There's an ad, so I'm waiting to actually show you guys so you guys don't have to see the ad for apparently healthcare. Hey, speaking of health, we're watching a healthcare ad. Um, very on topic, YouTube. Thank you. All right, so we are going to take a look at this. Now, it will be a little hard to see because apparently the cupcake is in your guys' way. Just a little bit, but you can kind of see it. So down in the lower, no, it's definitely blocking it. Down in the lower corner, you can see the different effects of how they display their health. Their health is pretty much, you get hit twice, you go down, for the most part. Well, to know another survivor is injured, down in your corner, it shows that they're injured. Well, now I know this is a little outdated video, it's now on the side, but it displays that they're injured. The orange bar means that they have to mend themselves, which means that they're kind of injured. They will go down if that bar runs out, but they are not completely injured. If that survivor was next to them, they would be crying and hunched over and like limping. That's how another way they describe and show uh, a player injured. I want to see if we can find a moment in here. Where maybe they get hit. I don't know if we will actually find a decent display of it. Oh, there we go. So if we look right here, now I have it slowed down because of the last video. They are limping. They are holding their stomach. You guys can't hear it, but the survivor would be crying. Essentially, a lot of things showing that this survivor is injured. They are hurt. They are hurting. They need to heal themselves. But we will move on from that. Health systems is not just a health bar, is what it boils down to. It is not as simple as a lot of people think. It is not as simple to change these things. As we saw before with, let's see if I can actually find a more up-to-date version of GTFO. If not, I could just hop into the game, but I should be able to find a quick video of a more up-to-date version. All right. So if I turn back on the Google screen, if we look at it, let's look at this screen where everything is. Here, let me zoom on in. And I have an idea. I'm gonna make group. Okay, oh, come on. My mouse is refusing to drag some things. I'm sorry about that. I know you guys can't see, but like that's why everything's taking an extra minute. So if I move everything up there, and I'm just gonna hide the desks real quick. So now it's still a little hard to see, so I'm gonna we're gonna just bring this above the screen and we're gonna zoom on in. So if we look at it, down in this corner, there is the health system of your allies. You guys can't see my mouse for some reason. It's fine. There we go. In this corner, you guys can see there is essentially numbers next to names of your allies along with images. At the top, as we said before, there is your health bar. On your gun is your ammo. There is a map. And that's pretty much it with your objective in your other corner. There's essentially everything in a corner right now. If we go to the new, more up-to-date version of GTFO, and we just take a look at this. Apparently my mouse stopped showing again. There we go. Your objective is still up in this corner. However, all your ammo information is now in the other corner. There is only the current run you're on in this bottom corner, hence you guys can't even see it. It's behind the play bar. And in the other corner is your how to type in chat. Now in the center, that is where your health bar now currently sits at the bottom, along with what effects you may have. It is now a much clearer screen to look at than the other way. Now, if you want your map, you now have to press a button to open your map. You now have to open tab to see the health of your allies, along with, you could also look directly at your allies and it's above their head. You do still have sort of a compass here at the top, but it is now not as visible. Your screen is more a lot more clear than it is here. Uh, and it is to also quickly display information. Yes, this stuff is now out of your way, but as we talked about before, there are things to just show that you took damage, to make you look to see how close you are to death. It is not just as simple as, yes, there is a health bar. It is other factors that make you look at that health bar. It is out of the way now. It is no longer right in front of your face. And they still need to show that, hey, you're taking damage. So, another thing with this is they could probably remove this health bar. They shouldn't. They shouldn't for multiple reasons, and we'll get into that. But they could. They do not need this health bar. They could get rid of it. There would be some consequences. A player would never really know how much health they are without them adding in a different way of showing it. So let's say they did get rid of the health bar in GTFO. So let's just go with, I'm going to take a screenshot of this real quick. It will be in a weird spot, but it's fine. I'm going to bring the desk back, and we're going to switch back to the art tab of my displays. We're going to crop this so we don't see the extra of my second monitor. And we're just gonna go over here and just essentially crop this out. This does not exist anymore. There is no longer a health bar. Now, it's not perfect because I'm not trying to make it 100% perfect. I'll fix it up a little bit, but just so it's not irritating to look at. And we'll combine that and blur. We're gonna leave the symbols of the health system because we're just talking about getting rid of the health bar for right now. So this pulse in the corner right here, you could probably move closer and put it where the health bar was. That's what I would say to do if we were to get rid of this. But we have to remember this person is at 63 health. So I'm gonna just make a little note with a color that they don't really use too much of 63 health. That is terrible writing. Just so we have a note of how we are going to display that. So they have 63 health, and they have, like, how do you know that this person has 63 health with what's on screen right now? You kind of don't. You kind of don't. They could add some auditory clues of like the person being injured. Now, they could also do what we were talking about before. They could add some like red. Normally red is for actively taking damage though, so maybe red isn't the best option. Maybe we don't do red. Maybe we do, hey, your screen is turning gray. You are at roughly 50, just above 50% health, so maybe it's more like around there. So it's a slight tinge to your screen of like, hey, you've taken damage. Maybe we even added it to be a little lighter on the sides too, like. And we erase the center so you get a more accurate depiction of like. And just, okay, something is wrong. Because this is not normally what my screen looks like. That's what you would be thinking. It's like, okay, we could also even add a tiny bit of red to this. We could go here, we could do overlay, we could kind of do something along the lines of that, where it is very slightly red. There is definitely something wrong here. Uh, if we remove that, your screen would normally look like this. You are now at 63% health. Your screen looks like this. As you take more damage, maybe this is like your 25. So like that's your 25%. Over here would be like your 60. Little more would be 50, and just essentially like, or maybe you have it flashing. That's another option. You could have it like the lower you are, the more it flashes or something. It all depends how you want to actually achieve it. Obviously, they chose to go with a health bar, but they did not have to. Now, if they didn't have the health bar, though, as I mentioned earlier, how do you know you're at 63% health? You don't. You would need to find another way, other than a health bar, to display health. Now, back when I was doing research for this was also for a task for me and other designers to design a new health system for a game. I chose to do GTFO. We are not going to go too much into redesigning health systems right now because we do not need to. That could be another episode. I might get some people on here, have them plan out a little bit beforehand, obviously. I'm not going to just send them in here blind, though that could be interesting. We could have a whole episode of people sitting here discussing how they would change a system in the game. Let me know what you guys think on that, because we can figure out something for that. If, which one, just let me know which one sounds more interesting to you guys. Would you rather sit here and listen to the whole thought process, or would you rather people come in here and say, this is what I think and why? I think either one could be interesting. It all depends on what the thought process is too, a little bit, but it would show the different ways of thinking. Um, but that is definitely something I have planned. We're going to return to the health system topic. This episode is to inform people what is the health system, how is it displayed, what what does it do? What does it do for the player to the player? That is what today is. And that's what we have been talking about this entire time with the UI, the information, the everything. That's why we have not gotten too much into specific numbers, because balancing is a whole different part of the health system. You need to balance things to for the health system to work. But the numbers do not necessarily make up the health system, because let's say you have 100 health. Like if we want to talk about numbers, you have 100 health. Each bullet, you're in an FPS, each bullet does 1 damage. All right. So 1 bullet does 1 damage. Now let's say you have 300 health. To keep the equivalent of what we had before, you would have, like, each bullet would be doing 3 damage, roughly. That's what it would essentially relate to, because you're timesing everything by 3. So ultimately, numbers don't exactly matter, at least not in this sense. Numbers normally matter for actually how it feels to play, less like hard. That's still not the right way of wording it. That's such a hard like thing to describe. Because yes, numbers are important, but like my point is you can put any number in that is considered balanced. to each other. So it doesn't matter if you only have 300 health or if you have 100 health, as long as the damage you're taking is balanced towards that amount of health. That is essentially what I'm getting at. So that's why I just kind of stayed away from most numbers besides referencing what we're seeing physically on here or coming up with a random one to put on our health example. Um there's not too much more that I can think about specifically about the health system at this time. At least not that's coming to mind. I pretty much covered everything I covered about how you gain health, what is health, what does it look like, how is it displayed, how does the game make you feel like you have health. Um, so we pretty much covered everything about it. Obviously, there's more specifics, but the more specific you go about each health system varies on what you actually need the health system to do, what it needs to display, what kind of game is it for. A This layout of the health system being in the corner is different than the health system you would have for a fighting game. You have one thing. Hello, Kronos. Welcome in. And what's your one thing? Also, if this was like a fighting game, say what this is a fighting game, we would have 2 health bars and 1 on each side. So health is displayed differently per game, but you would still have the same effect of like this health bar moving, shrinking, and growing, and the same type of feedback. Maybe not a red screen, but maybe you have a uh, your character gets knocked back in a fighting game. Let's see if I can find an example of that while I wait for Cronus's one thing. Nope, the perfect game to look at for this. I just need to find a good video. A lot of the games have hidden health systems for a player to make it feel stress. I think I understand what you're saying, but your words are a little confusing there. So I'm gonna try and guess. So you're talking about essentially games that don't have a health bar at all, which you do not have a health bar. Like, the health does not exist. We actually just no. Trying to understand what you mean then. So if I'm gonna go with what I was talking about for fighting games. How do we know Donkey Kong is taking damage? He's getting knocked back. There's a There's no red lines or anything, just Donkey Kong is getting knocked back. That is how we know he is taking damage right now. Anyways, that finishes that thought. Still trying to understand exactly what you mean. Let's see. I'm gonna look up Dark Souls. Dark Souls definitely doesn't have a health bar. You're nearly gone. Hardly there after taking your strike. Okay. So if we go back to this, uh, health bar. Okay. Trying to understand still what. There's a bit more HP behind that. I mean, that is varying how the actual system works. That is a choice designers have made that you have a hidden health. Now, they are typically using other that's okay, so that goes into they are not just using the health bar to be your only way of displaying health. Now, I haven't played a Dark Souls game. I have only seen a little bit of gameplay, but I'm sure they are using one of the multiple other ways of showing you taking damage. Um, it's actually I could probably look up a Dark Souls fight on YouTube and probably Dark Souls. Let's look up like a boss battle. Um, this person go in with like low health. Oh, hold on. Trying to find a video. Okay, so they go in with full health. Let's turn back on this. Shrink this back down because we don't need it to be this large anymore. So, um, that's one way. So there's a few ways they show health, at least right there. Taking damage at least. So there is the sparks of you getting hit, and then your character literally falls to the side. There is also a ton of blood that comes out. That just shows that you got hit. Um, let's see if they actually get close to what you're talking about in this fight. They probably don't, but we're gonna just see. Most people cut that out of videos, so. Yeah, and there they are healing. If you were home, you'd show. Fair. That is fair. Um, Dark Souls. Let's see if we can find near death. Uh, near death experience. This is a terrible quality video, but maybe it'll at least show what we're looking for. No, it doesn't really. Hmm. Normally that is typically some sort of like hidden health bars are typically some sort of like I don't want to say recovery system. That's not the right word I'm looking for, but essentially it's giving you a chance and or it is you are at 1 HP. That is the other thing. You are literally at the lowest number you can get. Therefore, you are not dead. Essentially, it's kind of forgiving you, I guess is the easiest way to do it, which sounds weird for a Dark Souls game. For them to have a hidden health bar for them to be forgiven. Now, I don't know if the same thing happens with enemies, um, but typically that is like a forgiveness method. Dark Souls, I know, is a very rough game. So for them to have a forgiveness system is actually really nice of them. Enemies don't? Yeah, so it's probably just a forgiveness system. Um, and I just want to see the near death encounter. So here they have next to no health. Honestly, it looks like they just happened to take it out beforehand. It also all depends how numbers exactly calculate, how hitboxes work. They could have easily died here, but they just happened to get the correct kill, like the correct angle. So, yeah, no, maybe we can probably find that out and talk about it at some point. Because right now, I don't think I'll find a video showing what we're looking for. Oh, maybe right here. Hold on. I think this is what you're talking about. So they get knocked down and they're just in fire. Yeah, honestly, that looks like it was just like a forgiveness situation. Either that or that may have been a scene where you're not meant to die. But I don't know if that was like some sort of boss battle or if that was just a random encounter or if it was a planned encounter. It's kind of hard to tell, especially since like does not have what planned encounters. Because I mean, honestly, this looks like a planned encounter. Granted, I don't know what happens after this because the video just cuts out. But places where you cannot die, fair. So I think it's just a slight forgiveness system because this person literally goes from full health to no health. So it gave them that little bit just so they weren't instantly dead. Unless this was a planned encounter, which that's also a thing. I don't know if it's a thing in Dark Souls, but it's a thing in other video games at the very least. Um, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell without like the only way to know is to actually like reverse engineer the game. To know if that is just a forgiveness system going if you go from 100 to 0, you live off of 1. I don't know if, like how exactly armor works in this because that could be another factor. Um, I don't know how some of the things work in Dark Souls to actually be able to perfectly tell what is happening. Because wouldn't the fire have also burned through a second health bar? Probably. So it honestly looks more like it forgave them for 1 HP. I'm sure if they walked into a new area with this much health, they would instantly die. Without, like, if they walked into somewhere and didn't heal, they would probably just die from the next hit. A lot takes place. Not sure exactly what you mean by that. Step on the gas. Yeah, not sure exactly what you mean by that. Said you're not sure of all the factors. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's many factors in all games. Um, like there could be several reasons, and it could be you don't have an actual second health bar or a hidden health bar. Instead, maybe it just counted those numbers towards a different thing. Um, because this is how some games work. I don't have a specific game off the top of my head, but you have. Well, let me. I can draw this out. So you have your. We're just gonna make this like a green. That is your health bar, and then you have. Let's say. Oh my god, mouse, please. I I hate I hate my mouse right now. You have a second smaller health bar, and we're gonna call that your shield, even if it's not as like smaller than your actual health. But we're gonna say that's your shield. So let's say the system may work in the sense of it's supposed to prioritize dealing damage to the shield. However, it does the thing you're against for some reason decides to first do damage to your health and you lower your health. If I could lower the health, that would be nice. You lose health first, and then the system goes, well, they have reached below, let's say, a quarter of your health. Um, and normally you would continue to take damage for there, but we're going to forgive them and deal damage to the shield. Normally these damages happen the exact same time, so it's not one after the other. You just see both lower, and essentially this shield would then be gone. Now, I'm not saying that's how Dark Souls work, but that is how some systems work. This is when he gets up and takes a step. He should have had taken another bit of damage because fires are live damage. So another thing that could have happened in that video is it is a thing where visual effects can happen before and last longer than actual um, I don't want to say hitboxes. That's not the word I'm thinking. I can't find the word I'm thinking of. But essentially, in the video, so yes, there is still fire coming out here, but that could all just be a visual effect of the fire having come out. The fire particle is still there, but there is no hitbox for the fire anymore. That is an option of what is happening right now. Whether or not that's actually happening, again, would have to dig into the game and actually like mess around with it. The 8,000 souls and wanted deed. Fair. But there are multiple things that could be happening right here. Again, I don't know how their armor system works. I don't know how their like anything really works. So, and the thing is, what could be happening right here? Another option, as he starts to get up, he could have a few seconds of essentially forgiveness, invulnerability. Uh, so think about trying to think of a good game to compare that to. I guess uh, fighting games like Smash. You could take one hit or something along those lines. You essentially get then can take a punch without actually taking the damage. Iframes only come from rolls in Dark Souls. I'm not talking about just iframes. Which he does roll here. That's the thing. He gets up and he instantly rolls. So he was probably sitting there spamming the roll button. Um, but if you think about it, they get stunned, they get knocked down. They are in an animation right here. They cannot control the fact they are getting up. So the game is probably recognizing that this is not their control, and they would not be taking a hit until they're fully standing. Actually, probably until their roll animation starts. I have to give no Kronos. No, no. There's just a few things that could happen. There's a few ways to describe it. A lot of very small factors that go into this stuff, and a lot of like it varies per game, so it's hard to say exactly what is happening in this one without like either reverse engineering it or talking to the devs or even putting thousands upon thousands of hours just recreating this what happens right here. Something Cole said back up HP. It yeah. It if it is what they're saying, it is probably just their forgiveness system. Now, again, sounds weird that Dark Souls has a forgiveness system. But if they didn't have a forgiveness system, think about how more frustrating the game would be. If you couldn't pull like off things like this, literally going like how are you supposed to get out of that? You don't have a choice. Therefore, forgiveness system activates and you are able to leave. Because nowhere could that literally took over the entire bridge, that fire. Now, again, I don't know this full scene. I don't know where that dragon is supposed to be, where they could be, what their pathing is. I don't know any of that stuff. All I can see is that there was no way out of this. Countless times, yeah. It is. But think about it. If you had died all of those times, if you had died those countless of times that you should have died, would you have kept playing? If you died every single time without any sort of forgiveness, you went from 0 to 100 to 0 in a second. would you actually keep playing? Probably not. Now, I know you're probably going to say that you would because you like the game. That's because you played the game of how it is now. You played the game with the forgiveness system, and that's how you know the game. Why not? It's about learning. But the thing is, constantly going from 0 to 100 with nothing you're able to do is not fun. Or, yeah, 100 to 0. This is different because your friend and I challenged to see who could get to the end first. I'm not sure what you mean, Cronus. Not sure what that's about. Also, hello, Striker. Welcome on in. Is the magic of Dark Souls? It is the fact Dark Souls is so. What makes people keep playing Dark Souls? It is challenging. It is a difficult game. It is a fun game because it is difficult. But if they did not have small little factors that essentially forgave you or did certain things, people wouldn't play it. If it was as difficult as people say it is, like to the extent of, oh, you just constantly die, everything is death, and there's no like, it would be a different game, essentially, is what I'm getting at. Now, I know there are videos out there that explain it way better than I do. You can look into why Dark Souls is fun. I highly recommend looking at those videos. I have watched a couple of them because of classes, but I do not like know the full extent of it because I have never played this game and I haven't seen full playthrough of this game. Does a game like that because he likes to suffer. The thing is, Cronus, you would not have enjoyed the game. Maybe you would have kept playing, but you would not have enjoyed the game. Should play it. Maybe one day. I'm not greatest at those kinds of games. uh, I am not great at rhythm platforming or timing based games because I was talking about this with some people with Hawaii specifically the other day. I know that I can't remember if it was in voice chat or not, or if it was just a normal call, but essentially it goes through my brain what I need to do, but my hands do not react in time. The signal either only half gets through or gets through way too late. It is just a thing that happens and it makes me suck at timing and rhythm and platforming and things that have to be timed. Also, pat the boy, I will do that. But yeah, maybe that'll be a stream game one day. Um anyways, I'm probably gonna say that is all for like the health systems. I'll probably cut part of this out from here, at least for the VOD, unless some topic gets covered that I think belongs with the health system, and I'll fully end the podcast later. But for now, we can just keep chatting about video games and stuff. Because the podcast for the live version will keep going, but this video version will be edited a little bit. Love how there's a category of videos called Souls like. Yeah, that is Souls like games are like Dark Souls, like those kinds of things. Uh, very, I don't know how to exactly explain it, but Souls-like games have become their own genre of video games. Takes more notes. I have only played one Souls game, and I can't even talk about it because I was a playtester for it, and it is not a released game yet. So that's really all I can say about it. It was definitely an interesting game. The stress of that game is so much. If someone's stressed so easily, Dark Souls in the game. Fair. I don't know. I could always give it a try, but I don't know if I'd actually make it through an entire Dark Souls playthrough. I would probably try, but it I probably wouldn't make it extremely far. I also have so many other games to play right now. So many horror games that we got to get through. Hear it now, Panic Luna noises. No, I feel like it would end up with frustration, Kratos, but we'll see. The most easy Soulsborne is Elden Ring. I mean, isn't that connected to Dark Souls? Not like necessarily directly, but isn't it the same people, if I remember correctly? I could be wrong on that. So, yes, okay. That is just something. My knowledge of Dark Souls game. G. Martin says the sequel. It is a sequel, so you believe him? Okay. Yeah, I also don't know any of like the lore stuff to Dark Souls, so I don't know exactly like how they connect. If it's just a, hey, this is another game in our series, or if it is actually these games connect, because those are two different things. Um, because like if we think about like Outlast, they connect and they don't connect in a way. They're both called Outlast. They're both based off of the same thing, but they actually don't connect directly. They connect through like hidden lore stuff that is not really displayed in the game. And that's why a lot of the times that Outlast 2 confuses people. It's weird. Yeah. How Outlast is a prequel to all of that. Yeah. Actually, is it a prequel? Is the Trials a prequel? Or is it just like I don't know. I haven't looked too much into if that how that fits into lore yet. I've been waiting for the game to actually come out because I just want to play it. Like I'm so excited for Outlast Trials. I honestly just thought Outlast Trials was going to be something that like essentially it's connected but not connected. All the main Souls games are connected, and Elden Ring is connected. Okay, makes sense. I think the trials are the experiments for doing the wall rider. Okay. I mean, you could be right. It could also be like a separate, like it's kind of going on at the same time idea. It could be a prequel. Or the other option is it could very much be just this is what the world has turned into. Because they could easily make Outlast its own world. Hydrate. Hello, Jinx. Welcome on in. How are you doing? Even though Outlast Trials is the present younger version of Doctor. Young version of the Doctor of the first one. Yeah, true. Sharks as you walk through to touch the button through the tunnel enemy. Yeah. uh, I can't wait for Outlast Trials. It was difficult actually playing with other people, like trying to get a like in the same lobby. Like we could only join off of Chronos. The group I was with, we could only wanted to play with some Travel Abbey City. Yeah, yeah. Remember you asking me to play, and I wanted to, but then like you were saying that you weren't going to be around for the last couple days. Just a big F. Maybe when it either next beta or if there's going to be another beta, there might not be another beta. We'll see. Or when it fully releases. I'm going to turn that into one of my main games when it releases, so it's going to be at least a once a week thing, kind of game until I finish it. I think they're going to wait to release the whole game. They're definitely going to wait longer. They're likely working on levels. Uh I don't know if the only thing is I don't know if they're going to do another beta or not. It would make sense for them to, but they might not. Uh, One thing I'm kind of hoping they do is similar to like how GTFO ended up releasing, which was they came out with a couple rooms for people to go through, and then over time they have released more and more rooms. And I kind of want Outlast Trial to run the same to keep it like so it's not just a one time you play through everything and done. But they might not have the money to do that. We'll have to wait and see. So I wish Red Barrels was not a Canadian company. uh Maybe time to start looking into a visa so I can just apply there. It'd be so cool to work for them. Honestly, it would be cool to work for like any game company at this point, but you have your doubts about the game, but it turns out it's so good. Yeah. I I had faith that it was going to turn out good. The only thing it wasn't was like uh the only thing is like they wouldn't necessarily like if they made it PvP, I think it would be if they would go wrong there. Shoot your shot, maybe. I mean, I can't start applying to actual full-time jobs until next semester. I can only apply for internships right now because that's what I'm looking for. Because I can't work until the summer. Um, I don't even know if they're hiring for a position I can work right now either. Well, they were last hiring for an animation director. And I've just been keeping an eye on like to see what happens. We'll see. Concerned it was not following the story on single player and about Murdoch. They're definitely keeping the Murdoch company. That's like their whole thing that's based around. I mean, ultimately it's based around CIA documents, but I was also concerned that you would not be able to play the game alone, but you definitely can. Is it difficult? Yes, but also have no clue what we're discussing, just here for the vibes. Fair Jinx, at this point, we are just discussing random game topics because I covered everything I could talk about for the health system. Want to know if about the two detectives in the comics? I have to reread the comics. It's been a minute since I've read them, so pew pew. Overwatch? Pew pew pew. I do have to be getting lunch here soon. Yeah. Could make me want to play Overwatch, Jinxie. Hope you're having fun in Overwatches. And Cronus is here waiting for people to get back. Kronos is waiting for to teach people how to do the pew pews, but not in Overwatch. Outlast is such a good game, and such a good game company. Like I have a really old drawing I have with this guy. It's also with the Markiplier. Let's see if I can see if I can find it real quick. It's not a great drawing, but there's the return of Chris Walker. Such a good character. Yeah, that's all. That's an. I completely blanked on his name. It's been too long since I've looked into the lore. Traeger. Traeger would be an interesting character to get more of. It's a shame he's dead, but it'd be interesting to also know more about the characters like beforehand, like before they went crazy. All right, scrolling back through the deviant art. Uh, only know how Chris likes to kill people before entering the asylum. Well, I mean, it's also because of his PTSD. That's Chris's whole thing. He was a former soldier, and he was meant to be a security guard at the asylum, but he went insane from PTSD. Ah, yes, here we go. Here is the terrible image with Chris. uh, like I drew Markiplier so well, and then just like some of the background stuff. I so need to redraw. It would work out so much better now. But yeah, let's see. Chris Walker. Um, there's people inside. He's responsible for various deaths within the asylum. Let's see. I know it's somewhere. Ex-military. Uh, tortured. No, toured, not tortured. Toured Afghanistan. Yeah, pretty much he was. He just pretty much went insane, to put simply. um, he would rip flesh from his forearm, from his face, to follow a truer vision. And he mutilated his nose and lips. That's why he doesn't have them, from extreme anxiety. And ultimately, just the way he is described, it sounds like extreme PTSD and anxiety, which anxiety stems from the PTSD. Especially him being a uh, ex-military police, and it fits in with his history. And then on top of that, being uh, part of one of the people to try and contain the wall rider, like there's just so many things that stack up to make Chris the character he is. Oh yeah, here we go. Uh, After his return from Afghanistan, he and the other war veterans were committed to Spindle Spindletop Psychiatric Clinic in Heaton, Texas, due to recently developed post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. They were treated with dream therapy, hypnosis, and subconsciously released their trauma. Eventually, Walker became a Murdoch employee and worked surveillance. Essentially, everything came out through trauma, trauma reasons. All right, I need to get lunch, so I need to essentially do two endings here. Um, that is definitely all for the podcast. I do these once a month. They are normally the last Saturday of each month. There will probably not be one next month, as that is literally December 1st. I don't think I'll actually be able to do that tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next month. Words. Um, but we will be covering another topic. I will try to announce what topic it is in January probably sooner. I might actually be looking for a group to get together to do one of the group parts of the podcast because those are a lot of fun. It's really nice to get other devs in here and talking about different ideas, different things. Um, Also, maybe I can get a big enough group to do one of the challenges that I have planned for this. That would be a lot of fun. Um, so we will probably not have the next podcast until December or not December, January 28th. Hello T, welcome in as we are ending. Um, and anyways, that is when the podcast happens. It happens live on my Twitch and is uploaded to the YouTube about a week after it is gone live. So this will be up on the 3rd, probably, of December. Uh, but I appreciate everyone coming by and supporting this and just chatting. It's really nice. It's really awesome to actually get this working and happening and so on and so forth. So I do all appreciate it. Anyways, that is all for the podcast.